Hi everyone, I'm Donnalouise and welcome to my YouTube channel for the love of puzzles. Today I'm continuing to work on Educa's Around the World Epic Jigsaw puzzle of 42,000 pieces. I've already done an unboxing and I've completed the first bag as well as 25 hours and 20 minutes of work on the second bag. I'll leave links to those videos all in the description below. I do end up completing the second bag in this video. During the time lapse, I'll discuss the landmarks and the monuments that you see, and we'll learn a little bit together. I hope you enjoy. But without further ado and for the love of puzzles, let's just jump right in. I started working again on those browns and yellows in the lower corner where the Easter Island heads from Chile are depicted. They are called moai. They are monolithic human figures carved by the Rapa Nui people on Rapa Nui, or Easter Island, in eastern Polynesia between the years of 1250 to 1500. Nearly half are still at Rano Raraku, the main moai quarry, but hundreds were transported from there and set on stone platforms called ahu around the island's perimeter. Almost all moai have overly large heads, which comprise like 3/8 of the size of the whole statue, and they don't have any legs. The moai are chiefly the living faces of deified ancestors. The statues still gazed inland across their clan lands when Europeans first visited the island in 1722, but all of them had fallen by the later part of the 19th century. The moai were toppled in the late 18th or early 19th centuries, possibly as a result of European contact or tribal wars. The production and transportation of more than 900 statues is considered a remarkable, creative, and physical feat. Now, the tallest one erected, called Paro, was almost 10 meters or 33 feet high and weighed 82 tons. The heaviest one erected was a shorter but squatter moai at Ahu Tongariki, and it weighs 86 tons. One unfinished sculpture, if completed, would be approximately like 21 meters or 69 feet tall, with an approximate weight of about 145 to 165 tons. And statues are still being discovered as of 2023. Now, a bit more about Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. It's an island and special territory of Chile in the southeastern Pacific Ocean at the southeasternmost point of the Polynesian Triangle in Oceania. The island is most famous for all these moai figureheads, and there's nearly 1,000 of them. In 1995, UNESCO named Easter Island a World Heritage Site, with much of the island protected within Rapa Nui National Park. I then moved on to work on the Niterói Contemporary Art Museum, which is situated in the city of Niterói in Rio de Janeiro. Hopefully I've pronounced its name correctly. And it's one of the city's main landmarks. It was completed in 1996. The structure is 16 meters high. Its cupola has a diameter of like 50 meters with 3 floors. The museum has a collection of just over 1,200 works, constituting the second largest collection of contemporary art in Brazil. It was designed by Oscar Niemeyer with the assistance of structural engineer Bruno Contarini, who had worked with Niemeyer on earlier projects. A wide access slope leads to a hall of expositions, which has a capacity for 60 people. 2 doors lead to the viewing gallery, through which can be seen the Guanabara Bay of Rio de Janeiro and Sugarloaf Mountain. Now, the saucer-shaped modernist structure, which has been likened to a UFO, is set on a cliffside at the bottom of which is a beach. Now, in the film titled Oscar Niemeyer, an architect committed to his century, he is seen flying over Rio de Janeiro in a UFO, which then lands on the site of the current art museum, suggesting that this be the origin of the museum. Just above that modern museum, you can see that I built the White House, which is the official residence and workplace of the President of the United States. It's located at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest in Washington, D.C., and it's been the residence of every U.S. president since John Adams in 1800, when the national capital was moved from Philadelphia to Washington, D.C. I then moved on to work on more yellowy brown pieces of Machu Picchu, which is a 15th century Inca citadel located in the eastern Cordillera of southern Peru on a 2,430 meter or 7,970 feet mountain ridge. Often referred to as the lost city of the Incas, it is the most familiar icon of the Inca Empire. It is located in the Machu Picchu district within the Urubamba province, above the Sacred Valley, which is 80 kilometers or 50 miles northwest of Cusco. The Urubamba River flows past it, cutting through the Cordillera and creating a canyon with a tropical mountain climate. You will see that Christ the Redeemer is being built off, and that was Paige. Paige came and helped me build the jigsaw puzzle, and I'll talk more about that at the end. So Christ the Redeemer statue is an Art Deco statue of Jesus Christ in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, created by French sculptor Paul Landowski and built by Brazilian engineer Heitor da Silva Costa, in collaboration with French engineer Albert Cacot. Romanian sculptor Jorge Leonidas sculpted the face, and it was constructed between 1922 and 1931. The statue is about 30 meters or 98 feet high, but that doesn't include the 8 meter or 26 foot high pedestal. The arms stretch out 28 meters or 92 feet. I'm sorry I've mispronounced any of those people's names. It is made of reinforced concrete and soapstone. Now, Christ the Redeemer, the current statue, differs considerably from its original design, as the initial plan was a large Christ with a globe in one hand and a cross in the other. Although the project organizers originally accepted the design, it later changed to the statue of which we see today with just the arms spread out wide. The statue weighs 635 metric tons and is located at the peak of the 700 meter or 2,300 foot Corcovado Mountain in the Tijuca National Park, overlooking the city of Rio de Janeiro. It's a symbol of Christianity known around the world, and the statue has also become a cultural icon of both Rio de Janeiro and Brazil, and it was voted one of the new 7 wonders of the world. Now, Paige built most of Christ the Redeemer for me off camera, but I managed to capture it separately, added it in. She built for just over 2 hours, and we recently did a kind of head-to-head speed puzzle, and I'm just over 2 times faster than her time. So what I did, I wanted to provide you with the time as if I were to build it. So I took the time she spent building Christ the Redeemer and I just halved it. And I added that to the overall time spent on this section of the jigsaw puzzle. What was interesting were her thoughts, because she was like, the false fits. And she liked that you could determine a direction of where the pieces went, but it was so tricky for her to move the pieces, the crumbliness. And when she came over and tried to connect them, I mean, this is all sped up significantly. But yeah, she did realize how tricky it was. And then I finished like the top and kind of like maybe half of Christ the Redeemer as well. You'll see here I'm left with just white pieces, which are some still of the museum, the Washington Monument, and the sky. So I'm trying to put them in before I move on to the next part. So these are white pieces with not a lot of detail. So I didn't think they belonged into Mount Rushmore, which is what I'm about to build next once these pieces are all done. Before moving on to the sky, I built Mount Rushmore. So the Mount Rushmore National Memorial is a sculpture carved into the granite face of Mount Rushmore Black Hills near Keystone, South Dakota, in the United States. Sculptor Gutzon Borglum designed it and originally called it Shrine of Democracy, and oversaw the project's execution from 1927 to 1941 with the help of his son Lincoln. The sculpture features the 60-foot tall or 18-meter heads of 4 United States presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. The 4 presidents were chosen to represent the nation's birth, growth, development, and preservation, respectively. The sculptor chose Mount Rushmore in part because it faces southeast for a maximum sun exposure. The carving was the idea of Dwayne Robinson, a historian for the state of South Dakota. Robinson originally wanted the sculpture to feature American West heroes, such as Lewis and Clark, their expedition guide Sacagawea, Oglala Lakota Chief Red Cloud, Buffalo Bill Cody, and Oglala Lakota Chief Crazy Horse. Borglum believed that the sculpture should have broader appeal and chose the 4 presidents instead. Peter Norbeck, a U.S. Senator from South Dakota, sponsored the project and secured federal funding. Construction began in 1927, and the president's faces were completed between 1934 and 1939. After Gutzon Borglum died in March of 1941, his son Lincoln took over as the leader of the construction project. Each president was originally to be depicted from head to waist, but lack of funding forced construction to end in October of 1941. The sculpture at Mount Rushmore is built on land that was illegally taken from the Sioux Nation in the 1870s. The Sioux continued to demand return of the land, and in 1980, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in United States versus Sioux Nation of Indians that the Black Hills were stolen and awarded $102 million in compensation. The Sioux have refused the money and demanded return of the land. This conflict continues, leading some critics of the monument to refer to it as Shrine of Hypocrisy. So what I've done here is I ended up shape sorting all the pieces that were whitish or blue with some white on them, probably clouds and whatnot. I was able to build the rainbow quite easily, and then I went through and did the sky as best as I could. Now you're going to see in the footage, have you picked out my little turtle? Can you see where the little turtle is? I'm going to talk about that more at the end in my outro of why there is a little turtle moving around on the jigsaw puzzle. I did like having a black foam board for the lighter pieces, and then later on when I finish off the sky, you'll see that I moved to a beige foam board. It's actually a piece, I think, of black foam board, but I've wrapped it in that photographer's gray paper, which was very helpful. And that way, this gave me an idea for when I go to the Spain competition. We're allowed trays. I'm going to make trays out of foam board where one side will be white and the other side will be black. So that way, I will always have like 2 white boards or 2 black boards or one of each, depending on what side I need to use. And for the team event, we're allowed 4 of them, and that may actually be helpful because you won't know the puzzle and you don't know if you want a black foam board or a white foam board. But if one side is one color and the other side's the other color, I think that'll be really helpful. So here you can see this is the last of the pieces, the sky. I'm finally at the sky, just working away. Oh my goodness. Blue, light blue, dark blue, medium blue. This section of the sky did not have a lot of variation in color. And you'll see, can you make out my little turtle moving around as well? And moving the pieces. I wasn't sure how much to include of this footage in the video, but to tell you the truth, it is part of the jigsaw puzzle experience and the assembly, going through this repetitive process of completing things that are most of us would consider kind of boring, like sky or grass or water. So here I am, almost done, getting there. Oh, wow, I can't believe it. And finally, the last few pieces going in. And then I did a close-up view for you all. Right there, a big jumbo jet in the air. There's lots of birds, again, in this section of the jigsaw puzzle, which I like. They add in little bits of Easter egg kind of things that you can find and enjoy. There's the top of Christ the Redeemer statue. You can see I only have a few pieces left and I'm still like, is it this one? Is it that one? Oh, wow. So close. How many left? There you go. We could count them down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done. There. I wanted to get like a nice shot of moving around the puzzle. And you're gonna see like a round ball of glare. And I've tried, but there's so much gloss on this puzzle. Even though I don't have like a significantly bright overhead light, no matter the angle, there's always that ball of glare. I left it in specifically so you can see that it's there. Now here, look, a chocolate lab puppy near the bourbon sign. That's so cute. Some things that maybe I didn't talk about. Below the Liberty Bell, we have a chicken, and there's a rattlesnake. The wolf, you finally get to see a completed image of the eastern island Moais. Oh, they were so tricky and difficult to do. They were. The base of the Statue of Liberty, the Central Park sign, there's a kite, yeah, lots of butterflies and squirrels. There's a hummingbird near the Lincoln Memorial. So nice. Of course, if I do a bigger shot further away, the glare isn't as bad. Coming in here, I believe that's a badger on top right there next to the temple. Another butterfly, and that's got to be a toucan. I'm pretty sure that's a toucan, a deer and fawn, and that looks like some beautiful parrot. There's the spaceship-shaped kind of museum. Love that, very interesting. The White House, panning up to Mount Rushmore and Christ the Redeemer. Sky up there. I mean, let's face it, it is amazing once it's all done. I love it. It is beautiful. Just the assembly process can be a headache. Our big alligator, the Washington Monument. Again, trying to get some good angles without too much glare. Here's a close-up of Mount Rushmore and all the various skyscrapers, the birds. The rainbow was fun. That was cute. Very cute. Lots of different birds, the jumbo jet. But there you go. I try to get like a nice overhead view of the entire jigsaw puzzle, and it's a bit tricky. I mean, this thing is big. Each section is just so big. It's a lot to work with. But I hope you've enjoyed seeing it all come together. There you go, bag 2 complete. And the second bag is done. Oh goodness. I hope you don't mind. I have some notes here because I want to make sure that I mention everything. This bag took me 49 hours and 50 minutes, so nearly 50 hours, which is approximately 6 hours longer than the first bag. And I have some ideas as to why it took me quite a bit longer. I thought I would explain it in a story. The story of our astronaut Buugeene, with a silent B, who comes to us from the planet Vulcooine. He came to visit us because Wendy is his cousin 23 times removed. But he had a bit of difficulty breathing our air, so NASA lent him a spacesuit to use. While here, he decided first he would go to the UN headquarters to explain that he is coming in peace. After that, he thought, well, I must go see Mount Rushmore, it's quite iconic, and go to the Grand Teton Mountains. Then he proceeded to view the Liberty Bell, wondering why there was a chicken near it. I explained that chickens are friends, not foe. He was quite interested. He then proceeded to go look at the UFO, and I explained to him it's not a UFO, it's an art museum. He was rather interested about that because he loved the design, as well as the White House. He finished off his tour of this section of the jigsaw puzzle by visiting the Andes Mountain and Christ the Redeemer statue. So why did Buugeene go visit all these areas in the puzzle? Because he fits perfectly in 6 separate areas of the jigsaw puzzle. This all began when I was working on the white sky parts. And I had a piece that I put in, and it looked too beige for the clouds. And I thought, what is going on? Why does it look too beige? It fits perfectly. I had pieces on 3 sides. It fit perfectly. I stood up, and at the angle that the light was hitting the Washington Monument, I thought, there's 2 pieces in the Washington Monument that just appeared to be too bright. So I took the beigey piece I was working on, went to the Washington Monument, and it fit perfectly. Now, I know many of you have told me that there's a repeat cut pattern, and I had kind of figured it out already that there was like 2 main sections in this direction, we'll say column-wise, in the puzzle, 37 by 37. But I thought, how come it's fitting top to bottom so well like that? So I investigated further, and this is where I found out that the puzzle is a repeat cut of 6 sections, each 37 columns by 27 rows, which doesn't exactly add up to 1,000 pieces. No, 999 pieces, which means that this bag is not exactly 6,000 pieces. It's 5,994 pieces, meaning the entire jigsaw puzzle is actually only 41,958 pieces. Just having fun here, but no, yeah. And I understand that puzzles always have a little more, a little less pieces. That's why I was so amazed with the Graphica 54,000 piece jigsaw puzzle, because they made each section exactly 2,000 pieces. So anyway, back to what I was talking about. These 6 sections of the jigsaw puzzle, so basically it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2 columns, 3 rows, are perfect. I'll put up a picture of what one section looks like. And you can definitely tell a difference between what we would call the inner edge or the inner border between sections. The pieces do look different. They have these little nubby prongs, and some of them are like a different shape, like they're wider, so they do stand out. And this caused me a lot of problems in this section in particular. I ended up having sky clouds in the Washington Monument, in the Lincoln Memorial, in the Contemporary Art Museum. I had problems with Christ the Redeemer, the Mount Rushmore. I had so many perfect false fits, and I would stand up and something would catch my eye, and I couldn't leave it alone because I knew the piece didn't go there. In fact, I had worked one night, I thought everything was fine. I only had like blue pieces left. Paige came over and I was explaining it to her, and something caught my eye, and I went, Paige, does that bluish whitish piece look okay in the sky? And she went, maybe, yeah. But then I counted and I found its matching pieces further down, and I swapped. I said, what do you think now? She goes, oh yeah, that does look slightly better. So frustrating. So what I ended up doing, because I was having enough of it, you will see this little turtle. It's actually a USB stick, but it was perfect. I used its little head, and I ended up using the repeat pattern to help me do Mount Rushmore, the white sky, the blue sky, because Mount Rushmore was actually very tricky. There was so much, it was very painterly, like brush strokey, not definite lines. And by that time, maybe I was just over it. I had had enough. I think not only the fact that there's 6 repeated cuts in this section of the puzzle, there's so many pieces of similar colors, the whites, beiges, the stonework. I was worried about that at the beginning, and it proved to be true, that it just made it that much more difficult. One piece, every piece in this section of the jigsaw puzzle fits perfectly in 6 places, which means every piece in this jigsaw puzzle fits perfectly overall in 42 places. And when you stand back, depending on the light, it shows. It looks pixelated. I did not like the sky. I knew something was off. I couldn't figure it out. And I just kept playing with pieces. There was part of where the cloud goes from blue to white. I don't know how much time I spent or wasted trying to figure out which one looked best. And maybe I should have just let it be. I think it's good now, but solutions to this. 1, don't make such repeat pattern cut on a large jigsaw puzzle. Or 2, bag them in 6 bags of 1,000 pieces. Or 3, print letters on the back of the pieces. You don't have to use them, but instead of me getting frustrated, I could have then looked at the back of the piece and go, oh, this is actually in a different section. So I've already decided when I come to tear this puzzle down, because trust me, she will be torn down, I'm going to take the effort and time to bag it into 1,000 piece sections. Because I do believe if I remove that displeasure of having so many perfectly false fits, just the crumbliness of the puzzle will still make it enjoyable, because you only have to do 1,000 pieces or 999 pieces at a time. And the image is lots of fun. And that way, whoever has this puzzle next can just go section to section. If they want to mix the bags, they can. I will forewarn them. But I've at least taken away that problem of having potential perfect false fits. And the image is beautiful. So really, it would just be the crumbliness of the puzzle that they would have to deal with. But because you're only doing 1,000 pieces at a time, it's not so daunting. Oh, nearly 50 hours on this section of the jigsaw puzzle. So much time spent dealing with perfect false fits. But now that I know the repeat pattern, the repeat cut pattern, I hopefully won't have to use it too much, but definitely for the skies, definitely for areas with similar colors. There was just so much stonework in this section of the jigsaw puzzle. Now, if I look at the next section that I'm doing, there's a lot of brownish kind of monuments. They do look like they have distinct textures, so I'm hoping it won't be too bad. But look at this sky. The sky, so much blue, will be tricky. Looking at the remaining of the sections, I think the last three or four will be a lot more fun, but I'm not looking forward to the sky in the last section. Like, I'm gonna love it, but I'm also gonna hate it because of that. I think I'm gonna end up having a lot of perfect false fits and having to stand back. And at some point, you just gotta say, well, you've done the best you could, because it's just really difficult. I can't believe how much time I spent trying to figure out which bluish, whitish cloud piece looks better. Even now, I'm looking at it at this angle going, okay, yeah, no. And I gotta just tell myself to stop. It's okay. But they could have done one of three things to prevent this from happening. I'm going to take a break now because we're working on the next battle of the YouTube puzzlers. I still have my big jigsaw puzzle display up, but that will be coming down this month. So then I have to put things all back. So I'm going to move on to do some other jigsaw puzzles, and I can't wait. I'll probably crack open the third bag after the next battle of the YouTube puzzlers, so probably like mid-June, and we'll go from there. Oh, goodness. I will return that first column back to the first section, and then I will keep out this column for the next section. Oh, and even in the column, I had false fits in the greenery. That was a pain too. Yeah. Well, but it's done. 2 bags down, 5 more to go, 12,000 pieces, 30,000 pieces to go. We're getting there. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. For the love of puzzles, I hope you enjoy my videos. Please consider subscribing. And until next time, ciao!